In the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA096.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Boom, we are back, Taylor. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
A
Welcome.
nice, smooth, easy week so far. Hopefully it's been easy for all of our listeners as well. And for you, Taylor.
I mean, they're all exactly the same.
They're exactly the same. I know. This is our life. Taylor, are you going to be introducing us because you fired me from that role?
Welcome, friends, to Doomed to Fail. We're the podcast that brings you twice a week history's most epic disasters and notorious failures. I am Taylor, joined by Fars. Fars, doing well?
I'm doing well. Is Juan like revising and writing scripts on this, or?
He needs to be.
I mean, he's the one with the opinion, so.
Tell your friends. Yeah. Anyway, it's my turn today.
It's your turn. Are we going to do a guessing game, or is it going to be futile?
Well, I told you I was going to do last week because I'm doing a 4-part series.
Olympics.
We're on part 2.
Thank you.
Part 2. So we are going to talk about the Olympics between the beginning and 1950, and a lot of stuff happens. And I read several books this week. I have a lot of articles in the notes, but the 2 books that I read, one of them was called Games of Deception, the true story of the first U.S. Olympic basketball team. And then I read Triumph, the untold story of Jesse Owens and Hitler's Olympics. I also, not for this, but in the last couple of years, I have read a book called Hitler's American Model, the United States and the Making of Nazi Race Law. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And then I have some articles as well that I read. So we will kind of get to all of that. I kind of go back and forth in this story. I'm not sure how organized I am, but it's super interesting. So let's talk about it. To recap, last week we talked about the ancient Olympics, how you get an Olympics, and some stuff to prep for the Olympics this year. Have you seen more Olympics news since then, Fars? Is it like in your algorithm now?
It is not. It is not.
Damn.
Luckily, my overlords have not discovered this.
Well, hopefully we'll get there. So we're going to go to Germany, to Hitler's Germany specifically for the 1936 Olympics. And before that, let's talk about other things that happened up until 1936. So as we learned, the Olympics were sort of restarted at the very, very end of the 1800s. And there were a couple, they were tied to like World's Fairs and trying to get it to be popular again. In 1906, the Olympic Games were held in Athens. They're not officially recognized as Olympic Games now because of like some rule thing that I don't understand, but they were more organized than the other ones and got people kind of to be like, okay, we actually can do this every 4 years, you know?
Sweet.
And what?
No, sweet.
Sweet. So a couple of things that we know that we like, well, we people who have seen the Olympics and like remember parts of it, that you kind of like think have always been there. One thing is this one in 1906 started the Parade of Nations. So do you know what that is? Everyone walks in together. So Greece will always start and the host nation always ends and everything else is in alphabetical order. So to just sidetrack about that tradition, so every country has someone carry the flag. And in the beginning, when you passed the host city's leaders, like the people in charge of the host committee, the president, whatever, the people in charge of the country, you would dip your flag. So one person's carrying your country's flag, you would dip the flag. That is something that almost immediately stopped happening because in like the early 1900s, there were games in London and an Irish American person was a flag holder and he was like, "Fuck you, England," and he did not dip the flag to the king because he's Irish, obviously, like a lot of animosity between those folks. So they kind of stopped doing it. And so you don't really see that anymore. There's also an Olympic salute, which is raising your right hand kind of off to the side, but it looks a lot like a Nazi salute.
It sounds like a sick hill.
Like almost exactly. So they stopped doing that in like the 1940s because they were like, yeah, this looks a little bit too much like the Hitler salute and we don't want anyone to do that. So now you just kind of like walk by and like maybe wave, maybe have your hands over your heart, something like respectful, but you don't do any sort of like special salute. In the 1912 Olympic Games were held in Stockholm, and the big thing there, Jim Thorpe won gold medals in both the pentathlon and the decathlon. He was stripped of his medals due to the amateur rules, but he got them awarded post-death in 1983. 1912 is also the first time they used electric timing to start timing things, so things can get a little bit more accurate because people are winning by like, speaking of like measurements, by like tenths of a second, you know.
Right.
So there in 1920 they were in Antwerp. And this was the introduction of the Olympic flag, which is those five rings that we see all the time, and the first Olympic oath. So every Olympics, one athlete will take an oath on behalf of everyone. And it's basically like, I'm going to be a good sport and try my best and blah, blah, blah. Great. So that still happens. That happened in 1920.
Was the
And
flame around at this point?
not yet, not yet. Good question. So in 1924 was the debut of the Winter Olympics. So they were held separately, but um, it's the first time like figure skating was in the Summer Olympics. I was kind of like figuring that out in 1924. Um, there was a man named Paavo Nurmi who was the flying Finn from Finland who won 5 gold medals in track and field, which was like a huge, so he became like really famous from that. In 1928, in Amsterdam was the first time women were allowed to compete. So before this, it's just been dudes. So now women are allowed to compete, and this is when the Olympic flame is introduced.
Sorry, what
So
year?
in 1928,
Got it.
and the Amsterdam Games. In 1932, the games were in Los Angeles, and another person. A woman named Mildred Zaharias. She won 2 gold medals. That was a big deal. It was obviously 1932 was the Great Depression. So the games, they actually did a really good job organizing them. And it was the first time they built an Olympic village for the athletes. And so that was like something that Los Angeles was credited for. So those are just some like fun facts about things that happened at the other Olympics. I'm sure there's like inspirational stories, but we're not going to have time for that. But I'm sure they exist. So 1936, we are in Berlin. This is what we're going to talk about for the most part today. Some of the fun facts is this was the first time that the Olympics were televised live. So this is like a new technology. It was only, you could only really see it like in and around Berlin, but still it was a technology. So like there's a story where like the athletes are in the Olympic Village and they're able to watch the competition. And that's the first time that it ever happened. People were like, this is happening now, like super big deal that it was live.
Taylor, just for context, 50 years after the first time we can televise an Olympic game in the immediate vicinity where the game is taking place, we launched the Hubble telescope that can take a picture of 250,000 galaxies in deep space and show us the origination point of the Earth.
Things are moving too fast.
Crazy.
I
Anyway,
know.
go ahead. Sorry.
I know, you're totally right. And then this was also the first time that the flame was lit in Greece and brought to the host city. So that tradition started here, and they still do that now. So like someone in Greece will light it and then they like run it all over the world, you know, and then they bring it to the final place. Did
That's
you know
pretty
that?
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
Is it true though? Is it really true? Has that really been the same flame for all those years?
I feel like it's a new flame every time, but but maybe it is the same flame. It just keeps going. I mean, who would know if it wasn't?
It's
Who
true.
cares?
What do you DNA test the
Yeah,
flame?
exactly. What are you gonna do? Like, I feel like someone's probably fallen or like dropped it or left it at a bar, you know. I'm sure there's something. My dad told me this story. I don't know if it's true, and I have no sources for this, where like a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup and they had a party, and the next morning, like one of the guy's neighbors called him and was like, "Dude, you left the Stanley Cup on the lawn."
I do love the idea of like some German runner getting drunk at some beer hall and leaving the Olympic flame there.
Yeah, and I feel like someone recently drop like the World Cup trophy off a bus,
I
like in
don't
the middle
know.
of the parade. I feel like he like dropped it, and it was pretty funny. So we're in Berlin again. Berlin got the Olympics in 1931. So we talked about before, you get the okay to host Olympics like 10 to 5 years before you actually host them. So in 1931, Berlin got the games, and that was a very different Germany than the Germany of 1936. So Hitler became chancellor on January 30th, 1933, and the Nazis are now in power and they're starting to already done a ton of stuff. It's before Kristallnacht, where they destroy just like thousands of Jewish businesses all over the country. But it is after the Nuremberg rallies. So people can see that the Nazi regime is like really, really strong in Germany. And they do, of course, like every city that hosts the Olympics, try to hide their bad things. So they do things like declare the week of the opening ceremony is the week of laughter. They want everybody to just be in a good mood. They hide their anti-Semitic posters. So they're like, we still believe this, but no one else is going to understand. So let's like take these posters down. They send thousands of Romani people to concentration camps. They send unhoused people to jail. They are just like, cleaning up the streets any way that they can. And again, like everybody who hosts the Olympics, they
Right.
always do this. So they're also like very, very obviously prepping for war. So they're like, oh, no, 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 no. Like, we're super cool. We just like are like Germany, like whatever, no big deal. But like people are getting there to compete in the games and they're like, are they building tanks next door? Because they totally are. Like it's very clear that they're prepping for war, that they're going to instigate something big, but they're trying to hide it. They brought back banned books, which is ridiculous. But they like have them back on the shelves for a little bit so people don't realize that what is happening. And some big concentration camps have just opened. Sachsenhausen just opened. So nobody ever didn't know that this stuff was happening, but they were like trying their best to hide it. A little bit of just history is that eventually 30 people who had won Olympic medals from around Europe were killed in concentration camps eventually because they were Jewish. One really good, a couple examples, they're just so sad. A young man, they're all very, very young, named Bronislaw Czech. He was an alpine jumper from Poland. He died in Auschwitz. Victor Perez was a French boxer. He died in the walk out of Auschwitz in 1945. He was only 33. But while they were in the concentration camps, they would make him like box other people, even though he was like an Olympian, you know, and like make him hurt people for like their sport. Bronislaw Czech, they offered him clemency if he would coach the German high jumping or alpine jumping team, and he said no. So he ended up dying there as well, which is
I mean, I,
terrible.
I probably would have done it. My pride's not worth that much.
So we're going to focus on the 1936 Summer Olympics because that's the big one. But there was a 1936 German Olympics. It was in Garmisch-Partenkirchen, Germany, from February 6th to February 16th. It was the only Winter Games that have ever been held in Germany. It was the last one before the war. It was really militarized. So by the time the Summer Games happen, there will be less military. So like first in the Winter Games, they had like, everyone was wearing their uniforms. Like the SS was there. Hitler Youth were all wearing their uniforms. So it was really intimidating and scary. And people were like, they said it and they saw it. So by the time the Summer Olympics happen, they're a little bit less militarized. Like they just like they're not, but they look a little bit less. So like the Hitler Youth get to wear like lederhosen instead of their terrifying uniforms, just to like kind of balance it and look less scary.
It's kind of more scary when they're not wearing the uniform. It's like when like a kid is evil, and it's like the fact that they're
Hmm.
a kid and don't look evil is what makes it more scary.
And like also, I don't know, you've been to Germany?
Yeah.
Everyone looks the same.
I
Like
mean, I can't
even
say
now.
that, but
You don't no, not you you should can. Everyone German is tall and blonde. Like they look the same.
they kind
And
of
like that
engineered it that way, though.
exactly. So like this is like going there and seeing everybody like being like we're super happy. You'd be like, okay, like you're really stressing me out, German children, especially in this time. So some other just facts about those Winter Olympics. Um, there were 28 countries that participated. It was Liechtenstein's first time, and everything like kind of went okay, but everything was covered in swastikas. So people were a little bit creeped out. There was
But why were
very
they creeped out? They didn't know what that meant at that time.
they did. They knew. Like they knew that they were like persecuting Jewish people. They knew that they were um fascists. Like they knew those things and then they like saw the way that they were acting, like it was creepy and weird.
Has there ever been a time when a political symbol being used for by a country was a good thing?
I don't know.
I can't think of a single time.
When you get like national, I know that Ben Franklin wanted our national bird to be a turkey. Did you learn that in elementary school?
That's a little different. That would have been cute
Instead of
though.
a instead of a bald eagle.
That would have been very cute.
In Super Troopers 2, Farva shoots a bird and it like falls out and they go, Farva, that's a bald eagle. It's just like really funny.
Well, I'm thinking, okay, so the hammer and sickle, that was the communist symbol, and that became the
Hmm.
national flag of the USSR. The swastika was the Nazi symbol. That became the national flag of Germany. Like, I don't think it's ever been
Yeah.
a good thing.
And so actually, I wrote this down later, but let me skip to it because we looked this up last night. I wrote, Juan asked a good question. So last night, Juan and I were watching a movie that I'm going to tell you about in a little bit. But so the current German flag is three colors. It's black, red, and gold, like three bars.
Yeah.
That flag was adopted after World War One because you'll remember that like Germany is just newly unified. So before World War One, it like barely had time to be a country before World War One happened. It was like a bunch of little like principalities or whatever, and then it became one thing. So that was a German flag. Then when the Nazis came into power, they changed it to black, white, red. So their colors, but still the three bars. And then it just became the swastika that we all know, like the red with the white circle and the swastika. And that became Germany's flag. And then after World War, I wrote, then they just said, fuck it, it's a swastika. That's like, they made it that. And then after World War II, it went back to where it had been. That's what it is today.
Interesting. Well,
So
I
they
guess,
like
yeah, given
switched it
how
over.
new a country it was, nobody's attached to the flag at that point.
Yeah,
Like whatever, make it a swastika. Who cares? I mean,
fuck it.
it's not
Fuck it, you
good, but
guys.
still.
I also follow a Instagram account called Old Hollywood Swoon, and they always talk about how handsome Captain Von Trapp is from Sound of Music. Have you seen Sound of Music?
Guess the answer to that.
I don't know. You can surprise me. So there's a part where he gets home from his honeymoon in Austria and they have put Nazi flags up on his house and he takes them down and tears them up. And then the Instagram account is always like, girls only want one thing and it's Captain Von Trapp staring like tearing up a Nazi flag.
Wait,
Is it he's very
was Donald
handsome.
Sutherland this guy?
No.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
No. Anyway,
Wait,
anyway.
he's a real person?
Yeah.
Wait, The Sound of Music's a real story?
Yes.
Okay.
I went, yeah. We can talk about this later. I know a lot about the Sound of Music, but yes, the Von Trapps are real. Um,
Wow.
and Captain Von Trapp, he did a thing in World War One where like he killed a lot of people in a submarine. And there's like a couple like things about his past that are interesting that we can talk about later. We're in the Summer Olympics now. There's swastikas everywhere. Some of the stuff that happened like in the background is Hitler's obviously like super excited to have Aryans win everything because that's his
Philosophy.
deal. Yeah.
He's kind of known for this.
Yeah, that's his thing. And so it's fun to be like, we really showed him because we have some, black people from America won a bunch of events. And like, that's great. But we have to remember, and we'll talk about this a bunch, that in America, Hitler was literally looking at the way that we segregated race as a model for what they were going to do in Germany. They obviously went further, but that was like, he knew that was like America had no moral ground to stand on when there's segregation and horrible inequality in America
Right.
in 1936, you know? Um, so there were like I said, black and Jewish athletes on the American teams, but it wasn't like easy for them to get on there and they were treated differently. Some of them didn't go out of, people knew what was going on in Germany and people would say like, don't go, we should boycott this. And then some of them were like, let's show them that we can do this. So there's like one Jewish person on the US basketball team, and like he was very brave to go, but he was like, we have to show them like we are athletes and all the things. Um, the it's all amateurs, like we said before, but there are like amateur leagues that people are in, and if you're like, there's a couple ways to get in. If you're really, really good, you're going to get like sponsored and be able to get in. If you are like, oh, if you're rich, you can also get in. You know what I mean? Like if you're rich and you have the time to like practice and do all these things, you'll be able to get in. So in Germany, they were like, yeah, 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 totally. If you're a member of an amateur club, you can be in the Olympics. Like, we're not discriminating against anyone, but like no Jewish person could join the amateur clubs. So it was like he just like didn't say that, but
Yeah.
obviously no, there was no Jewish people in there. Um, 49 countries were in the Olympics. Around 4,000 athletes competed. The Soviet Union didn't go. Um, I feel so bad for athletes when there's like even like the one that was moved for COVID or when they like their country decides to boycott it because like we said last week, like you train your whole life for this like one thing. And if you the 4 years difference is huge.
Yeah,
Like
like
if
you're not going
I'm
to be
in
the same person when you're like 28 that you will be when you're 32.
yeah. So some people did boycott. But let's talk about some things that happened before we talk about some like, other stories. So there were the opening ceremonies, obviously, which is like the big pomp thing. And the biggest question was like, who was going to do the Nazi salute? Because Hitler was there. And, in the book I read, it talks about like you could tell when Hitler was coming because people were like losing their fucking minds on the street. Like hundreds of thousands of people like giving the Nazi salute, so excited to see him in the arena. They're so excited that he's there. And so who is going to salute him and who isn't? Most countries didn't. Some of them did. Like obviously, like Japan did the Nazi salute. The Bulgarians fucking loved it, and they stepped it up and did goose steps. They were like, "We love you." Like they were super into it. The U.S. walked by with their hands on their hearts. Um, the Some of them did the Olympic salute, which was close, but like it's easy. Oh, it's easy for them later to give it.
On television in 1936, it'll look the same.
Exactly. So they were like, "Oh no, the Olympics salute." You're like, "Yeah, whatever." So there was a lot of that happening. Also, the Hindenburg was there, which is kind of fun. The Hindenburg flew
That's fun.
over a couple times. Um, so all of this is being recorded by Leni Riefenstahl. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
Okay, so I wrote this bitch deserves her own episode because, and I will probably talk about her maybe next year on Women's History Month because she's like so interesting. But she was a German filmmaker, and so she made the movie The Triumph of the Will, which is about the Nuremberg rallies, like the big Nazi rallies, and she made a movie called Olympia about the Olympics. So she was Hitler's like documentarian, and she got to live to be 101. Like she got off. Like she was like at Hitler's house, like good friends with him and making this propaganda for him. And she got to live to be 101, which I think is absolutely bullshit. And I did read a book called Hitler's Furies about like the women in Iraq in his circle. And then like another one that pisses me off is like Ilse Koch. She was the bitch of Buchenwald. She was just like a terrible, terrible, terrible person. And she died by suicide in the 1960s. Or fuck her to the moon and back. So fuck Leni Riefenstahl. But I did watch her movie last night on YouTube. You can see it. It's
Wait, you
there's
watched
no way to,
Triumph of the Will?
no, I watched Olympia. I think I've seen
Oh,
parts of
oh.
Triumph of the Will, but I watched Olympia, which is the one that she made. So there's like stories of her like, running around with her cameras, fighting with Goebbels, trying to like make sure that she could see everything. So she recorded the opening ceremonies. The first like 10 minutes are like this really weird, like artsy thing with like um scarves in the air and the Acropolis and like all these things. And then she has the some of the athletics in there. So there's no way to understand how excited the Germans were about this. So like no way to like understand, underestimate, but like they were so excited about this. And so the movie shows them, like in the streets and in the crowds, just like being super excited. Another fun thing is they let out hundreds of birds at the end and they pooped on everyone, which is hilarious.
Predictably.
Um, but if you do watch it, I'll put the link to the YouTube version I watched. There's a bunch of them. But at a minute 58 is when you can see Jesse Owens doing the long jump that we'll talk about. But that's what you'll want to see after this episode. So that's where you want to go.
Hey,
Um,
Taylor, Lenny, what's her
Riefenstahl?
name? Thank you. She has a website that's still up and active, and the homepage looks like a Nazi's site. Like the
Yeah.
font and the colors and everything look good. But then if you click on her biography, it just shows all these like pictures of her being a cool, awesome, having a great life. There's pictures of her with Mick Jagger for some reason and his
Ugh.
wife. Yeah,
Can
she
you
like
believe that she like
lives.
saw September 11th?
There's her with those two tiger guys. What are their names?
Siegfried and Roy.
Thank you. Yeah, she lives a great life. I mean, not
Ah,
a well-lived life, but like
no, but
they
it is absolute bullshit that she got off. Yeah, totally. I definitely want to talk more about her later. Um, so there are several Black people there. There were other Black, especially track and field folks on the U.S. teams, and I'll talk a little bit about them later. Um, the Oh, one more thing. In 1955, Riefenstahl agreed to remove some Hitler from her movie so she could have it screened in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. Like, ugh, I hate her. Guess who else was there? The Nazi Charles Lindbergh was there, and he sat next to Goering the whole time and talked about the Air Force
wait,
because he's,
actual Lindbergh was there?
yeah, yeah, because he was like an American, but he was obviously also a Nazi, which we've mentioned in passing before. So he was super excited to be there and like meet with, especially Goering, who was in charge of the um,
Air Force.
German Air Force. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the opening ceremonies. Another thing to note is Hitler's plan was for the next one, the 1940 Olympics were planned to be in Tokyo, and then after that, they would just all be in Germany.
Of course, because they would win everything.
Right. Like that would they would be in Germany for, the 1,000 years or of the Reich or whatever. Also to note, these stadiums that they built in 1936, later they would be the places where they would do mass shootings.
Seriously.
Like as the world was ending, as like their world was crumbling, they would do like last minute shootings in there. Um, I read a book about basketball because there's like a big basketball story here that I'll tell you about. But the Nuremberg, after the Nuremberg trials, the people who were hung, they were it was on a basketball court. So it's like basketball became like a national sport, and it's where they ended up actually like executing a lot of the Nazis on a basketball court, which is just
Sweet.
creepy and interesting. Yeah. So let's talk about the U.S. team. So the United States team, again, they're amateurs. They got there in kind of a roundabout way because the Olympics is pretty new, but like track and field is actually pretty popular. People like know good track and field people. So other sports are starting to get more popular. And the teams would qualify, but then like not have enough money to get to New York because they had to take a boat from New York to Europe. So they would do things like fundraise in their communities to be like, we need $1,000 to get this basketball team all the way over to New York City. Um, there were qualifiers on Randall's Island, which is right next to Astoria, Queens, like on the Triborough Bridge. And the swimming trials were in a pool in Astoria, Queens, that I used to live right next to. Juan and I lived right next to this pool. It was like a beautiful outdoor pool, and it had like a diving area and like a Olympic-sized pool, and it would be open in the summer for people to go in and swim. But that was built specifically for that. During the qualifiers on Randall's Island, President Roosevelt was there to help kick them off. And also, a young boy from Queens named Anthony Benedetto sang at the opening of the Olympic trials in 1936, and later he would be Tony Bennett,
No
which
way.
is kind of fun. Yeah,
Wait, what was his name?
Anthony Benedetto.
That's so cute.
Isn't that cute? So he was 9 years old, and
Is he
and
still alive?
no, he just died like last year. I just looked it
Oh,
up. Yeah. But I saw him sing one time, and he was, I mean, obviously it was insane. But yeah, I thought that was fun.
Anthony
So
Manatito. That's
Anthony
so
Benedict,
cute.
this little Italian boy from Queens.
Paparagits.
So the U.S. team, once everybody qualified, like, whatever, they get to New York to go to Europe. They take a ship called the SS Manhattan from New York City. So once on board, they had a ton of food, and that's something that they talk about in every book I read. Like the food was really good. They had a bunch of drinks. Jesse Owens was a little bit seasick, so he didn't eat a lot. Um, One fun story, there's a woman swimmer named Eleanor Holm. She seems fun. She got kicked off the team for being drunk every night. And she was like, even drinking, I'm going to beat every world record. Like, what is wrong with you? And she said, quote, this chaperone came up to me and told me it was time to go to bed. God, it was about 9 o'clock, and who wanted to go down in the basement and sleep anyway? I said to her, oh, is it really bedtime? Did you make the Olympic team or did I? And I had a few glasses of champagne. I love that
Fun.
for her. Um, so she was fun. She was married a bunch. She was in movies with another Olympian that was there who won the decathlon. She was married to a Hollywood guy. This is like later, just like a fun side. And she got divorced, and her alimony was $30,000 per month, which is equivalent to $340,000 today,
Holy shit.
which is dumb and amazing. So she's great. She's in the Swimming Hall of Fame. She seems fun. At the pier when the SS Manhattan was going off to Europe, there's one dude with a sign that was like, "Don't go." Like the Nazis are bad. Don't go. But obviously they went. Once they got to Germany, there were a bunch of Germans there waiting for them, looking all the same, being really happy to see them. The men got to stay in an Olympic village that was very nice. And I have pictures of like Jesse Owens's room. The Olympic Village is now like a museum, but it was very nice. They had chefs that made food from all over the world, which is very interesting. That like they had German chefs making like Indian food. Like I'm really impressed that
I'm
they did
sure
that.
it tasted amazing.
They said
I'm
that
sure Germans cooking Indian food came out
that
perfect.
Germans like they made Japanese food. Like that is pretty impressive that they would like bother to do that. The women, of course, were in a shitty dorm with like no food and they slept on straw mattresses. But the men's dorm was really nice in the Olympic Village.
Fun.
Yeah. So, okay,
Taylor,
let's
can I
talk
ask a
about
question?
sports. Yes, please ask questions.
Are you going to talk about Helen Mayer more?
No.
Okay.
Who is that?
So when the boycott was being kind of bandied about from other countries, Hitler allowed one Jewish woman to
Oh,
take part. Her name is Helen Mayer, and she ended up having to flee the country after.
I bet she did.
She won silver, and I have no idea what she won silver in. It's called the women's foil. I don't know what that means.
I think it's fencing. It says German fencer. That's
Oh,
cool. Good for her. I mean, yeah, really crazy.
and yeah.
She looks cool.
Because I'm also like, do you win or do you lose? Because if you lose, you prove to them that you're not superior. But if you win, you put it in their face that you are superior. Like, what do you do?
You leave as fast as
You
you
leave as fast as you
can.
can. Exactly right.
Poor thing. She died of cancer in 1952. Yeah, no, there's so many stories of like little ones that I'd love to talk about, and I didn't get to that one. But yeah, that's super interesting. Um, ugh, yeah. So okay, I have a couple sports to tell you about. Basketball. So I read a book about basketball because basketball was like relatively new during this time. This was the first time basketball was in the Olympics. James Naismith, who's the dude who invented basketball, he did it similarly to the peer who started the Olympics. Like he thought that people needed more sportsmanship, more physical activity. He introduced it at a YMCA and they would bring it around to college campuses. The rules would change a little bit, but essentially he's a person that like invented modern basketball. Um, he the people on the basketball team played for amateur basketball teams, which like they're still p playing on like a team, which seems professional, but whatever. And a lot of them came from the Universal Pictures basketball team, which is fun that they had one. And these were the guys who needed to fundraise, and eventually they would lose their jobs. And when they came back, there wouldn't be a team anymore, but they did get to go to do it. The team was entirely white. There was one Jewish person on the team. James Naismith actually got to go. So when he got there, no one really knew who he was. And then someone said, he's a guy who invented basketball. And then he got like more of a welcome and he got like tickets to go see it. But he was there. And the US did win. They won the gold, but they played against like a bunch of other teams who played it a little bit differently again because it was like brand new. The way that they had made the ball, they made it have like um stitches like a football. You can't dribble that because the stitches are in the way.
Yeah.
You know, the team from the Philippines was so good they considered having a separate category for short people because they were
Aw.
so good, but they didn't stand a chance. And the final game was in outside in a flooded field that was like covered 2 inches in mud, and then they had this, like the ball was like totally waterlogged, and they had to like try to get it to work, and the U.S. beat Canada 19-8 in the final game and won the gold medal. So
Right now, if you could put LeBron James against all 10 from actually put him against every person combined, and you just push it a
yeah,
thousand to 1 point.
1,000%. Yeah, but it's brand new, which is kind of fun that it's like a brand new sport, pretty much for the world, and then it gets into the Olympics. Um, Another thing about boats. George Clooney made a movie called The Boys in the Boat. I didn't watch it, but like it's like another Olympic feel-good movie. It was kids from the University of Washington. They ended up
Oh, I know
narrowly,
this one. Yeah,
do you know what I
okay.
mean? They ended up beating the Germans and the Italians, which was great. But that's what happened. I'm sure there's like personal struggles in there as well in the movie that I did not watch.
Like, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
The
watch it.
personal struggles of people that have been dead for 100 years don't really matter. I
That
will
one I'm
say
not gonna.
Germany's medal count, like they kind of blew it out of the water. 101 to the US, which is number two at 57.
In 1936.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, probably
Which,
as
I mean, home team
expected.
advantage, that's probably a thing. But I guess what it really boils down to is like, you don't really care that your country was number one. And again, not to make fun of curling. I know we have a lot of curling listeners out there, but
Hmm.
if you win gold in curling, it's not, nobody's going to care as much if you win gold in like figure skating or in like gymnastics, right?
Yeah, and I think it's like a matter of percentages too. Like, of course, like the United States and China and Russia always have the most medals in all of the Olympics because they have the most people, you know? And if you're like, if 0.0001% of the population is great at gymnastics, like, that's a lot more people here than it is in France,
Right.
you know? Um, so yeah, I think that they had a lot more athletes too, just in general. But like, I think that's on purpose because they were, trying to prove that they won. So, okay, the reason that we're here is to talk about track and talk about Jesse Owens. Do you know who Jesse Owens is?
Yeah, of course.
So, my cousin and Juan's cousin both went to the Ohio State University where Jesse Owens went. And I texted them both and I was like, is there Jesse Owens stuff at Ohio State that like talks about him? And one of the cousins sent me back, said, yes, every single sports thing is named after him, and sent me a website to an archive that has like his papers from when he went to Germany, tons of pictures from his life. It's super, super helpful. And then the other cousin said, is that a football thing? Which made me laugh
Which I can almost understand because Ohio State is so up its own ass about
about
football.
football. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Ohio State University.
Give it a
No.
rest.
I know. So yes, Jesse Owens was the fastest man in the world during in 1936. Who's the fastest man in the world today?
Still got to be Usain Bolt, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you seen the videos of him like slowing down and laughing? Like
He
he's
does
just
the
so
thumbs
fast.
up. He stops and does the thumbs. It's so cool.
He's so fast. Yes, Usain Bolt is the fastest man in the world right now. But Jesse Owens was the fastest man in the world in 1936. And like it's a shame that we can't put them in the same circumstances and have them race, you know? Like if Jesse Owens had access to trainers or even like skin tight clothing, what could he have done differently? And who would win? Like all that stuff is really fun to think about. So James Cleveland Owens was born September 12th, 1913 in Alabama. He was the grandson of an enslaved person, and his parents were sharecroppers. They moved to Ohio when he was 9 for like better opportunities. And when he was in school, his teacher asked him his name, and he said JC, which is James Cleveland, but she heard Jesse. That's what she wrote down, and that became his name because
Whoa.
because he had like a really thick Southern accent, and she didn't understand what he was saying. So he became Jesse. Jesse Owens will always be working besides doing track and besides going to school and besides having a family. He had a ton of jobs his whole life. While he was in junior high, he was working to deliver groceries after school, but his track coach, Charles Riley, knew there was something special, like saw him running and was like, this is different, and convinced him to run before school. So before school he would run, he'd go to school, then he'd work all night, just like always, always busy. He met his wife, Minnie Ruth Solomon, when they were in junior high. So they were like always together. They had their first child in 1932, and they didn't get married until 1935. But during this time, while he's in high school, he's a new dad, he's working all these jobs. He is breaking records like unbelievable. He equaled the world record in the 100-yard dash and the long jump in 1933 at the National High School Championships. In college, he's going to get a whole bunch of other awards I'll talk about in a second. But just to note, him and Minnie, they get married on July 5th, 1935, and they'll be married until his death. So, and he has two more children with her. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. So, He's at Ohio State. He is great, but he doesn't get a scholarship because he's black. Like that's just, he's still like fighting against that. The team is a traveling team, but he has to travel separately from everybody else. He can't stay in the same hotels that they stay at, and he can't eat the same food that they eat because there's a lot of places that just like w literally won't let him in,
Yeah,
which
it's like the
is,
Green Book
yeah.
situation.
So he has a job with a local legislature. He has a job at a gas station, just like a bunch of other jobs while he's running track, while he's in school, while he's on the traveling team. He goes to LA and it's in the papers that he's hanging out with this woman who's like a socialite. And then his wife is pissed, obviously, because she's at home with a baby. And as soon as he gets home, they get married. Because he was like, sorry,
Sorry
it's
about
in the
that.
paper with the other woman. Um, in 1935 and 1936, he won 8 gold medals in the NCAA championships, 4 in each. That record wouldn't be beat until 2006. So he was just like winning medals. Um, one of the biggest days in sports was March 25th, 1935, during the Big Ten track meet in Ann Arbor. He set 3 world records and tied a fourth. So he's like this college kid, just like literally setting world records. He did a world record for the long jump at 26 feet and 8 1/4 inches, which would last 25 years. He got a gold in the 220-yard sprint, the 220-yard low hurdles. And like the way he would run the hurdles wasn't like the right way to run it. He would just like run really fast and like kind of hop and like do it again, but he was still so much faster than everybody else that didn't matter.
I do. When
Um,
I see them do the hurdles and I see them kick their legs up, I'm like, that looks so much harder to do it that way than to like just
yeah,
hop over it.
totally. So he would just like hop over it, but he was still faster than everybody else.
Yeah.
And a lot of those records are actually like double records because it like 220 yards is like X amount of meters or whatever. So he's just like kicking ass,
Right.
taking names. Um, so now it's time to get ready for the Olympics. Like he knows that he's going to go and he qualifies obviously pretty easily. A couple people try to get him not to go, specifically the NAACP, want the black athletes to boycott it because of Nazis. And the I know this because I know a lot about the Roosevelt administration, but the president of the NAACP at this time um, wrote wrote Owens a letter, but he didn't ended up not sending it. But his name is Walter White, and that always makes me laugh because I think of Breaking Bad.
Of course.
Yeah. Um, so, but he is going. He does go. He passed all the trials. Obviously, there's a bunch of other people that are with him. He's on the SS Manhattan with everyone. He was very seasick the whole time, but he gets there and like gets his balance again and is like ready to run. There's 2 conflicting stories I read about shoes. One of them is probably not true that Adi Dassler of Adidas sponsored his shoes, like gave him shoes. And then another one that he didn't have any shoes, so his coach bought them off the rack for him just like regular shoes. They didn't have time to break them in. That one's probably more true than the other one.
Right.
Um, he's in the Olympic Village. His diary, I read that in the Ohio Archive. He's having a good time. He's like, the food's good. Everyone's super nice because that was true. So it's also important to note that he's not the only black person on the team. There are 18 black athletes that go to Germany. I have a link to an article from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum that has some notes on them. But these were all like young men, like kids, who were going to Europe to win these awards for their country and going home to a segregated America, you know? So, um, John Woodruff, who won the 800 meter, after he got home, he said, quote, after the Olympics, we had a track meet to run in Annapolis at the Naval Academy. Now here I am, an Olympic champion, and they told the coach that I couldn't run. I couldn't come. So I stayed home because of discrimination. That let me know just what the situation was. Things hadn't changed. Things hadn't changed. You know,
Yeah, it's nuts.
nuts. So, against all odds, the Germans are pumped about Jesse Owens because he's just so fast. And they're just like really excited to see him. And so Hitler gets pissed because they cheer for him all the time. And Hitler's there and he's always mad about it. Hitler does greet the first handful of gold medal winners. And I think, like you said, far as a lot of the gold medal winners are German. So the first couple events, Germans win. He greets them in like his box or whatever. And then he leaves before the first black person wins something. And they were like, oh, he's busy or whatever. And then someone was like, you can't do this. Like, this is a bad look. So he didn't greet anybody else. So he didn't look like he was discriminating. And obviously he was.
Did he think that only Germans were gonna win, or only
Uh,
white people were gonna win?
That was the hope. And that was what it would be like. That was his Olympics. His Olympics would be like white people against white people forever.
That'd be
Like
so
that was a
boring.
plan. I know.
So boring.
And so um, there are rumors that did wave at Jesse Owens when he started winning his medals. He may have done his like little half heil that he does sometimes. Who knows what really happened? But like they never met. He never actually like shook his hand. Like they never talked to each other. Jesse Owens did say, quote, Hitler didn't snub me. It was our president who snubbed me. The president didn't even send me a telegram, which is true and fair. Roosevelt didn't send him anything. He should have.
What,
Um,
FDR?
yeah.
Weird.
Um, so and then Hitler later was like, oh, later he was like, yeah, we definitely need to ban black people from the future Olympics because they have an unfair advantage because they're closer to living in the jungle,
Jesus
which is
Christ.
exactly something that Hitler would say when he was losing, you know. I don't need to say what an asshole, but you know what I mean. So back to running, Jesse Owens easily qualified for each of the things. So he didn't just run, he did a couple dashes, he did the long jump, and he ended up doing the relay as well. So he made a good friend with a German man named Luz Long, Luz. And
I'm literally on his Wikipedia page right
are
now.
you? So Luz Long and Jesse Owens were legitimately friends. There's a couple stories like Jesse has said that Luz helped him with something, but that's probably not true. Like they probably met after the meet. This is what that minute 58 on the Leni Riefenstahl movie shows them doing the long jump together, and they show like Jesse Owens, he wins, but there's pictures of them walking arm in arm, and this is like a tall man who looks like a Nazi. He's like blonde, you know,
Wearing
very
all white.
German. Yeah, his their tracksuits have swastikas on them. I mean, obviously, but like it's just wild.
Oh, you
And
can't
so
really make it out in the picture, but I get your
it's in like
point.
the middle, yeah. So Luce and Jesse become friends. They would write letters back and forth after the Olympics. The last letter he sent to Jesse Owens said, "Can you tell my son about the time that we ran together and people got along?" And then Luce was killed in Italy in the invasion of Sicily in 1943. And in the 1960s, Jesse did go back to Germany and meet with his son and tell him about his father, which is
Aw.
lovely. Yeah. Um, so Jesse Owens wins 4 gold medals. On August 3rd, he wins the 100-meter dash with 10.3 seconds. On August 4th, he wins the long jump. He wins at 26 feet 5 inches, which is still 3.25 inches short of his own world record. So he didn't beat himself, but he beat everybody else. On August 5th, he won the 200-meter sprint with a time of 20.7 seconds. The second place uh, silver medalist in that event was Mac Robinson, who was the older brother of Jackie Robinson. So the sporty family, the Robinsons. Um, in August 9th, he won his 4th gold medal in the 4x100-meter sprint relay. Him and another black runner replaced 2 Jewish runners. And it's a little bit of controversy, like why did he replace them at the very end? Usually they don't put their best runners in the relay because they were so good anyway that they were going to win no matter what, even if they weren't the very best. But also then like, why wouldn't you just put your best runners in the relay? So there's like a whole bunch of back and forth as to why. But either way, he got his 4 gold medal, and no one would get 4 gold medals in track until Carl Lewis did in 1984. So he did great in the Olympics. Came home with four gold medals, and yeah. Do you have a question? You look at me weird.
Well, no, I'm like now, I was like actually looking up Usain Bolt, and
Hmm.
I mean, like I said before, like there's some sports where if you're the best at it, you are set, right? Like
Hmm.
Usain Bolt's gonna get 50,000 different contracts from
Yeah.
shoe companies to cereal company, all that stuff. What did this guy get?
Nothing.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, man, like,
Hmm.
all this, like, for
I'm
what?
going to tell
Like,
you what he got. He got nothing. Yeah. I mean, today, I think I wrote this down. Everybody would be wearing Jesse Owens track shoes. Like
yeah.
he'd have all of the endorsements. It'd be a huge deal. But yeah, no. So, um, at the end of the Olympics, Hitler was embarrassed that all white people didn't win, which is great because he sucks. But Jesse Owens doesn't like have a full-time job. He's still in college. So he's in college during the 1936 Olympics. He goes back to Ohio State, and this whole time he's been in college. There was like a semester where he wasn't allowed to be on the track team because his grades were failing, and I'm like, when does this man have time to go to class?
Right.
Like he's a father. He has jobs. He is on the track team, but he also is going to school. After the games are over, he gets sent around Europe to do like exhibitions with the team, but he doesn't make any money from that. It's sort of like a way for the American Olympic Committee to like make back some of the money they spent, but it doesn't go to the athletes. He does take a few, he gets offered some things, like some big endorsements, but they're all not real. They're just to like get in the paper, to be like, oh, we offered Jesse Owens $50,000, but they don't, no one really like was going to follow through on that. He does take a couple low-level endorsements, which means that the amateur league kicks him out and now he can't run anymore. Like he just like can't win. Like there's just no we're waiting for him. When he gets back to New York, like literally the day he gets back to New York, him and his wife can't get a hotel room because no one will let him in because he's black. Finally, the Hotel Pennsylvania lets them stay, but they have to go in through the service entrance. So he comes home, and this is actually something that I just saw via my algorithm on Instagram, but History Channel has a new show that just premiered this week about what happened when he gets back because he gets back and he's just a black guy in racist America.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter that he was an Olympic hero. Um, he works at gas stations. He would race horses. Like he would run a track next to a horse. Like the horse, he would get like a little bit of a head start and just like run next to each other. He said, quote, people say it was degrading for an Olympic champion to run against a horse, but what was I supposed to do? I had 4 gold medals, but you can't eat 4 gold medals.
Makes sense.
So
He's right.
he did a lot of work. He had a dry cleaner that failed. He did work at Ford for a while in the civil rights division. He campaigned against President Roosevelt. Um, he filed for bankruptcy in 1966 and got in trouble for tax evasion. So he was never rich. He never had a lot of money. Eisenhower sent him around the world as a goodwill ambassador, which is fun. So he became a speaker and I would talk. He would speak at like colleges. He got an honorary degree from Ohio State, I think later. So he was like famous for those things, but it wasn't like lucrative. Um, when Jesse Owens was 35, he started smoking cigarettes, and that's what killed him. So he smoked a pack a day from when he was 35 until he died in 1980 of lung cancer. Um, and he is buried in Ohio, and he died on March 31st, 1980. Jimmy Carter said, quote, perhaps no athlete better symbolized the human struggle against tyranny, poverty, and racial bigotry after he died. Um, so after these Olympics, there wouldn't be another one. The Olympics in 1940 got canceled, in 1944 it got canceled, and then the next one would be in 1948 in London. But guess who wasn't invited?
Germany.
Yep, in Japan.
I mean, I don't feel bad for them.
I don't either. They were not invited. Um, so I definitely there's a bunch of movies about Jesse Owens that look good. The book Triumph was really good. It's just like so exciting to see someone just be excellent at something and so insane to see them not get treated so terribly when they get home. That's such a big discrepancy. So next week we're gonna go from 1950 to 1980 and talk about stuff that happened um, during those Olympics.
So one thing on the Jesse Owens Wikipedia page that I found really fun and interesting is that in
Hmm.
the movie Get Out, the girl's dad who played, oh God, I forgot his name. He was on West Wing,
Yeah, yeah, Bradley, I think.
something. Anyways, he's like the bad guy. He apparently said that he lost a qualification round to Jesse Owens in 1936. And that is when he started researching how to replace his brain with the brain of a black person. Crazy, right?
Yeah, that movie's wild. I should watch that again.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
Um, Fun. Well, that's
yeah,
well, not fun. It's not good. But
it's wild. I mean, and I recommend watching Olympia. Though, just like having aren't a lot of words in it. It's mostly just like sounds. But watching that Jesse Owens and Lutz Long do the long jump is really cool.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking at the pictures of them, it's it kind of speaks to what you mentioned before, which is like the whole point of the Olympics, was bringing people together. But
Hmm.
and that's kind of how I always felt like on a political level too. It's like if the people could talk to each other without the governments, then the
Yeah.
people would be fine. It's the
Yeah.
governments getting in the middle of it that causes issues.
I agree.
And that relationship he had with that guy Louis Long was a good example of that.
Yeah. That's cute.
Sweet. So
Yeah.
our four-parter is down to two more parts.
Hmm.
We're gonna kick this off again next week. And which parts are we getting to next week?
So I know something happened in 1960. So I have a book that I'm going to read. Um, what is it called? It is called, it's about 1960 in Rome. It says, let's see, I have my thing here. Oh, it says Rome 1960, the Olympics that changed the world. I don't know how it changed the world. I'm going to read that book and tell you. And then I'm also going to talk about the Munich
Oh,
massacre.
I was gonna ask about the Munich
Yeah.
one. That movie
Um,
is amazing.
I know. I don't think I've seen it, but I think I should
It
obviously see it
is
for this.
very, very, very well done. I want to
Yeah,
say, was it Spielberg that did it? It
I
stuck
think
my
so.
memory. Like it was one of
Yeah,
those movies that like just you just like every now and then are like, what was that memory of I have? And it's like, oh yeah, that thing, that movie.
yeah. 2005. Um,
Yeah, it was Spielberg.
yeah. Something else I wanted to tell you when you were talking about yours is the guy who wrote the book Chernobyl, that was like what the show was like based off of. Not like based off of, but like that book was like used to like do the HBO show. Just wrote a new book on the Challenger, and I'm on the list to get it.
Sweet.
From the library. I'm on in 14 weeks. I can listen to it. He wrote Midnight in Chernobyl, Adam Higginbotham. But I'm excited to read the Challenger book
Very
because
cool.
that's crazy.
I would do the space shuttle ones, but they're so I mean, it is so not obscure. Like everybody who's paid any attention knows every detail.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
um,
Excited to read that.
well, Taylor, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And we have plenty more Olympic news to look forward to in the next 2 weeks.
I haven't heard anything about the um Hoop in the Sun yet. Oh, we almost watched the Sun movie last night. I think we'll watch it tonight, the shark one.
It's so stupid. You'll love it.
I can't wait.
And hopefully by the time we join you again, those two poor bastards on the International Space Station are on their way home.
Godspeed. Because
Godspeed. Seriously.
I wonder what they're doing right now. They have like cards. Like, what are they doing? Is there just the two of
Nothing.
them?
Nothing. They're just like praying that this all works out.
I wonder what their internet speed is up there. I can download our show.
Um. Anyways, anything else to say, Taylor?
That's it. No, thank you so much. If you need anything, have any ideas for us, we're at doomedtofellpod@gmail.com. Find us on social media and please, please, please review us on Apple Podcasts because that helps people find us. I'm also doing a TikTok every day and some person was like, I love this. And they downloaded all of our episodes. So we got like a huge bump
Oh,
in downloads one day. So that was super exciting. So
thanks,
I will
person.
be continuing to do that forever.
Thank you, person, and
Yeah.
Taylor.
Thanks. Try my best.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and cut it off.